What is going on, you guys? It's your girl Diana, back at you with another YouTube video. Today is Friday, December 23rd, which means earlier today we got the special Pokemon anime episode. This episode is titled The Distant Blue Sky, and let me tell you, this was definitely an emotional episode. So of course, I'm gonna do my usual recap and review for you guys, so if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe because it helps your girl out, and give this video a thumbs up so that we can push it out into the YouTube algorithm so that more Pokemon fans can see it. And if you would like another way to support the channel, please feel free to check out the merch store. There is a link down below in the description that takes you to not only my merch store, but also all of my other socials, so you can keep up with what I'm doing on a daily basis. But let's go ahead and hop into the special Pokemon episode. Before we hop into this recap and review, I did want to point out that this is alternate universe Ash, so this is actually not canon with the rest of the Pokemon Journeys anime. But we start off this episode back in Kanto with Ash riding a Gyarados and Pikachu playing with a bunch of wild Pikachu. The two then join forces to battle the Gyarados, and Ash tries to catch it, but to no avail. And after their battle with Gyarados, they get into another random trainer battle with someone that has a Machamp. And of course, Pikachu comes out on top. After a long day of battling, they head over to the Pokemon Center where Ash actually hops in a call with his mom. During the call, we find out that his mom is actually gonna meet up with his dad at another Pokemon Center. And so of course, Ash is like, yeah, let me go head over there right now. I haven't seen my dad in forever. And he's super stoked to see his dad. And I'm stoked too, because I have waited 25 years to find out what happened to this kid's dad. So this is big news. This is like the first time they've actually focused on Ash's dad in like a big way in the actual Pokemon anime. But of course, since Ash is super stoked to finally see his dad after not seeing him for so long, he hops off the call with his mom and starts heading towards the Pokemon Center where they're supposed to all meet up. And as he's walking through the forest to try to get to the other Pokemon Center, he comes across a giant tree. And around this tree, there's a bunch of rocks that look very eerily similar to Gengar. But the tree has like this big arch under it that you can walk through, kind of like the sequoia trees in the sequoia forest. And he walks through the trees, which kind of feels like he's walking through a portal. It was very much giving like Celebi movie and like being transported. Like I feel like that's why they made it so like ominous with like the rocks with the Gengar faces on them and the big like arch that you can walk through. It all just felt very mystical. But the two pass through the arch to go to the other side of the forest and find a spot to camp for the night. The next morning, however, Ash wakes up and Pikachu is nowhere to be found. So while Ash is scrambling to find Pikachu, he runs into some random boy who says he actually saw Team Rocket take Pikachu. At least I'm assuming that's what he was saying, or something along those lines. There was no subs when I watched this, so I'm doing my best. But Ash and the mysterious boy go over to where Team Rocket's hanging out, and lo and behold, we find Pikachu in yet another trap. And the only way that he can get out of this one is by using the key that Jesse's holding. Team Rocket then runs through their OG motto, but while they're distracted, Ash is like, yeah, I got the key, homies, and lets Pikachu out. And of course, they're blasting off again. Ash then says thank you to the boy who showed him where Pikachu was, and the boy actually says that his name is Haruto. And after introducing himself, Ash tries to shake his hand, but Haruto actually doesn't shake his hand. So this was my first clue about what's gonna happen later on in the episode, because from this moment, I had an inkling. But after that awkward no handshake encounter, the two actually start talking, and Haruto starts asking a bunch of questions about what it's like to be able to have a partner like Pikachu, as it seems like Haruto hasn't actually been able to interact with Pokemon for quite some time. And of course, in true Ash Ketchum form, Ash is like, oh, so you haven't interacted with Pokemon in a while, let's go interact with some right now. And we get this cute little montage that is very reminiscent of like OG Ash, of him getting into a ton of different situations with different Kanto Pokemon, which at one point lands them in a swarm of very angry Beedrills that chase Ash, Haruto, and Pikachu to a cabin in the middle of the woods. Upon arriving to the cabin, they see a man painting blue skies. And it looks like Haruto tells Ash that the blue sky is actually one of his favorite things. Ash then walks towards the house where he's more or less greeted by a woman who's actually surprised to see him there. But when he turns around to introduce Haruto, he's literally nowhere to be found. Like he actually vanished into thin air. And this was clue number 2 for me about what I had a hunch about from the very beginning of the episode. But then surprise, surprise, Ash then turns to the woman and says, hey, you got any food? Because your boy is hungry. The man that's also in the house overhears this conversation, and he's over here being sour and rude and grumpy. But the woman's like, yeah, homie, let's go pick some berries. After she puts together a little basket of food for Ash and Pikachu, Ash then heads back into the forest, and surprise, surprise, look who he runs into, Haruto. While Ash and Pikachu start chowing down on some food, he offers some to Haruto, but Haruto's like, nah, I'm alright, I'm not gonna eat. You can go ahead and eat. That is clue number 3 for me right there. Homeboy doesn't want to touch Pokemon, he disappears, and he doesn't want to eat. Something seems a little suspicious here. But after eating some food and hanging out for a bit, Haruto then asks Ash for a favor, and tells Ash that his favorite hat actually got stolen by a Mankey. And of course, Ash pulls a Mr. Worldwide and says, been there, done that, and tells Haruto that his hat also got stolen by a Mankey once. Which I love that they did that little callback. But they go off to find the group of Mankeys with the one that stole Haruto's hat, but Ash then tries to bargain with the Mankey to get the hat back. Eventually he does get the hat back, but the Mankey is over here crying in the club because he liked the hat so much. So Ash is like, alright homie, you can have my hat, and gives the Mankey his own hat so that Haruto can get back his favorite hat, which I believe the hat is something that his dad gave him. So it's a very significant hat. But after finally getting Haruto's hat back, Ash tries to give it back to him, but Haruto's over here like vanishing into the distance over and over again. So of course Ash is following him, trying to be like, hello, do you want your hat? But of course eventually they end up at the cabin in the middle of the woods. And once again, Haruto is nowhere to be found. So Ash just strolls up to this house like, hey, have you guys seen Haruto? I got his hat. And the parents are like shook. They're like, what are you talking about? Why are you lying? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not, what do you mean? I'm not lying. It's Haruto's hat. I was just with him. I just took this back from a Mankey. He said this was his favorite hat. And then of course the two parents finally cave and confirm what me and I'm sure everyone else was thinking from the very start of the episode, and tell Ash that Haruto was actually their son who tragically passed away from an illness. So surprise, surprise, we find out that Haruto is actually a ghost. But Haruto's parents then tell Ash that Haruto's dad paints blue skies because Haruto loved them so much, and she reminisces about how much he loved Pokemon and being out in the forest and interacting with all of them. Haruto's mom then says thank you to Haruto for letting her know that he's okay even if he's only there in spirit. And we can see a cute little scene of Haruto standing in between his parents as a spirit as well. But after Ash leaves the cabin in the woods and walks back into the forest, he encounters Haruto's ghost once again. And despite Ash knowing that Haruto is literally a ghost, he asks Haruto if he wants to pet Pikachu, which of course Haruto tries, but his hand just phases through Pikachu. And so Ash is like, I got you, homie. Let me use my aura to help you interact with a Pokemon one last time. So we get this really touching moment of Ash using his aura to give Haruto a hug, giving Haruto a final human and Pokemon interaction before he finally crosses over to the other side. But after helping Haruto cross over to the other side, Ash then goes back through the archway that he passed through in the beginning of the episode towards the Pokemon Center to meet his parents for dinner. But by the time he gets there, we only see his mom sitting at the table. And we find out that Ash actually got there too late because his dad had to run. So we never get to see Ash's dad. But Ash's dad did leave a gift for him, which just happened to be Ash's original anime hat, which I thought was another nice little callback. After putting on the hat that his dad got him, he sits down and starts having dinner with his mom, and his mom even offers Team Rocket some food because they're over here chilling in the corner in the worst disguises ever, apparently starving. But after we cut back over to Ash after seeing Team Rocket, we actually see that Ash is crying, and I'm talking about like full-blown bawling, sobbing while he's stuffing his face. And so as much as I want to believe that this is probably associated with the fact that he missed his dad, I also feel like it has a lot of significance to do with the fact that Haruto has now finally crossed over to the other side. Because if we remember back to like OG Ash days, this boy would cry whenever he would have to leave one of his friends. So I feel like it had something to do with that, but also probably because he missed his dad. But dang, that was a lot more of an emotional episode than I ever expected them to release. I personally really liked the episode. I thought that there was some great callbacks, and I thought that the theme around it was actually a really good theme. I also loved seeing that they went back to like the OG art style with even the same color palette in the sky where everything looks like watercolors, and even Ash in his original anime outfit. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see what Ash's dad looked like or even sounded like, especially because they teased it in the very beginning of the episode. That was like some YouTuber clickbaity type of introduction. But other than that, I genuinely loved this episode. It felt like a very special episode to me that I'm definitely gonna remember. So overall, I give this episode a 10 out of 10. I'm super excited for the next 11 episodes that we're gonna get, seeing the end of Ash and Pikachu's journey. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments of this episode and what you're expecting out of the next couple of episodes as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.